The space around the Kepler expanse was so empty and so quiet that it felt like nothing had ever existed there. Stars were very far away. They looked like tiny dots of light in the darkness. Rocks and dust floated everywhere, but there were no ships. There were no sounds. There was only the endless black void of space. The Valorian Coalition's exploration ship moved slowly through this emptiness. The ship was called the Star Guardian. It was a powerful vessel with many weapons and advanced technology. On the bridge of the ship stood Captain Quan Tayo. He was a military officer of the highest rank. His body was made of crystal and light. When the ship's lights hit his skin, it reflected and created beautiful colors, but there was nothing beautiful about his face. His face was always serious and hard. He did not smile. He did not joke. He followed the rules perfectly. Everything on his ship had to be exact and precise. There was no time for feelings or emotions. There was no time for compassion. There was only duty and rules and procedure. This was the way Captain Quan Tayo lived his life, and he believed it was the best way. On this day, Captain Quan Tayo was standing very still and watching all the screens. The screens showed maps of space. They showed the locations of asteroids and small planets. They showed radiation levels and chemical readings. Everything looked normal. Everything looked quiet. And then scanner operator Kyo, a young member of the team, made a discovery. Kyo was nervous when he found it. He turned around in his chair. "Captain," he said in a quiet voice, "I am reading a signal. An unusual signal." Captain Quan Tayo did not move. He did not turn around. But his voice was ice cold. "What kind of signal?" Kyo checked his instruments again and again. He wanted to be absolutely sure before he spoke. "Sir, it is a distress beacon, very old. Maybe 30 or 40 years old. The signal is very weak. I am reading life signs too, but the life signs are also very weak. Captain, I think there is a damaged ship out there. I think there are survivors." For a long moment, Captain Quan Tayo said nothing at all. The bridge was completely silent. Everyone waited for him to speak. Finally, he turned around. "Show me on the main screen," he commanded. The main screen lit up with an image of a small ship. It was damaged very badly. There were holes in the sides as big as a person's body. Fire had burned the outside. Metal was twisted and broken. The ship looked like it would fall apart at any moment. Captain Quan Tayo looked at it without any emotion. "What species is this ship?" he asked. Kyo read his instruments. "It is from a planet called Earth, sir. The creatures from that planet are called humans. They are primitive. They are not members of the Coalition. They do not know space travel very well." Captain Quan Tayo nodded slowly. "Then we do not need to help them," he said simply. "Send a basic supply package. Then continue with our patrol mission. We have important work to do." He turned back to the navigation screen. He thought the conversation was finished. But it was not finished. Dr. He-jin was in the medical laboratory of the ship when she heard the discovery. She was listening to the communication channel. Dr. He-jin was different from Captain Quan Tayo. Where he was cold, she was warm. Where he was hard, she was soft. She loved all kinds of life. She loved studying alien species. She loved learning about their culture and their science and their bodies. She believed that every life in the universe had value and meaning. When she heard about the damaged ship and the weak life signs, something inside her chest felt pain. She could not ignore them. She put down her work immediately. She packed her medical equipment as fast as she could. She ran through the corridors of the ship toward the transport bay. Her heart was beating very fast. She had to help them. She had to try. When she reached the transport bay, Captain Quan Tayo was already there with 5 other crew members. They were preparing to go to the damaged ship. Dr. He-jin quickly joined them and started loading more equipment onto the transport vessel. "Captain," Dr. He-jin said as the transport ship began to move toward the damaged vessel. "With respect, sir, I need to speak. That ship is very damaged. Those creatures need real medical help. They need expertise. They need someone who understands emergency medicine. I am trained in this. I can help them. I can save their lives." Captain Quan Tayo did not look at her. His voice was cold. "Those creatures are not members of the Coalition. They are primitive beings from a primitive world. They are not our responsibility." Dr. He-jin's voice became firm. "Sir, they are living beings. Our Coalition Charter says that we must protect all life. It does not say we must only protect Coalition members. It says all life. These are living creatures who will die without help. If we do not help them, we break our own laws. We break our own promises. Captain Quanteo finally turned to look at her. His crystalline eyes were hard. You are a scientist, Dr. Heijin. You are not a military officer. You do not make decisions about who we help and who we do not help. I do, and I have made my decision. We will give them basic supplies. That is all. Dr. Heijin did not back down. With the greatest respect, Captain, I must ask you to reconsider. These creatures are suffering. They are dying. We have the power to save them. How can we ignore that? How can we ignore the suffering of another living being? The two faced each other. The entire transport ship seemed to hold its breath. The other crew members did not move. They waited to see what would happen. Finally, very slowly, Captain Quanteo gave a small nod. Prepare your medical equipment. But this is the only time I will do this. Never ask me again. Dr. Heijin's heart filled with joy. She had won. She would save them. When the rescue team entered the damaged Earth ship, they found a scene of terrible suffering. The ship was dark and cold. Ice covered many surfaces where water had frozen. 5 humans floated in the air, unconscious and barely alive. Their skin was burned red from radiation. Their bodies were thin and weak. They looked like ghosts. One of them was an adult male. His name was Park Min-jun. He was the captain of the human ship. His body was burned, but his face showed strength. Next to him floated a small child. She was only 5 years old. Her name was Yoonji. She was his daughter. She was holding her father's hand even though she was unconscious. When Dr. Heijin saw the little girl, she felt tears in her eyes. She moved immediately to help them. She put emergency medicine into Park Min-jun's body. She checked Yoonji's heartbeat. She worked fast and carefully. She treated each human with gentle care. She treated them like they were important and valuable because they were. The rescue team brought all 5 humans to the coalition ship. They brought them to the medical laboratory. Dr. Heijin worked without sleeping for many hours. She cleaned the burns on their skin. She gave them medicine through their veins. She put oxygen masks on their faces. She fixed the radiation damage in their bodies. One by one, the humans began to wake up. Their eyes opened. They started to breathe better. They started to move their hands and their legs. Park Min-jun was the first to become fully conscious. He opened his eyes and saw Dr. Heijin working above him. For a moment, he did not understand where he was. Then slowly, his mind became clear. He tried to speak, but his voice was very weak. "Where am I?" he asked. Dr. Heijin smiled at him. A real smile. A kind smile. "You are safe now," she said softly. "You are on a coalition medical ship. We found your vessel. We brought you here. You are going to be okay. You and your daughter are going to be okay." Park Min-jun's eyes filled with tears. He could not believe it. They were saved. His daughter was saved. They were alive. Later, when little Yoonji woke up, she saw Dr. Heijin sitting beside her. The little girl did not understand what had happened. She did not understand where she was. She was cold and scared. She wanted her daddy, but she also saw something in Dr. Heijin's face. She saw kindness. She saw care. She saw love. "Are you my new friend?" the little girl asked in her small voice. Dr. Heijin took her small hand. "Yes, sweet child," she said. "I am your friend. My name is Heijin. What is your name?" "I am Yoonji," the little girl said, and she smiled. In that moment, something changed in the universe. A connection was made that would last for 30 years and across the entire galaxy. A promise was made without words. A promise of friendship and loyalty and remembrance that would echo through time itself. 30 years had passed since that day in the Kepler expanse. On the planet Earth, Park Min-jun had become one of the most important men in human history. He was no longer a simple space captain. He was now the director of Earth's space program. He had worked day and night to build the future of humanity. He had created ships and trained pilots. He had studied the technology of the coalition vessel that had saved him. He had learned their secrets. He had understood their science. He had shared this knowledge with the best human scientists and engineers. Together they had built something amazing. Earth now had ships that could travel through space as fast as coalition ships. Earth had weapons that could compete with alien weapons. Earth had computers that could think and solve problems. The humans had become powerful. But Park Min-jun never forgot where this power came from. He never forgot the rescue in the Kepler expanse. He never forgot Captain Quan Teo's serious face or Dr. He-jin's kind eyes. He told his daughter the story of their rescue many times. He told her about the coalition and the stars and the alien scientists who had saved their lives. Yoonji grew up listening to these stories. She grew up thinking about the vast universe and about the species that lived in it. She grew up knowing that there were intelligent beings out there who were kind and brave. When she was old enough, she joined Earth's military. She studied science and strategy and warfare. She became a pilot and flew the fastest ships. She became a commander and led soldiers into battle. She studied the coalition's tactics and learned their methods. She became one of Earth's greatest military leaders. Her mind was sharp. Her courage was strong. Her vision was clear. She believed that humanity deserved a place among the stars. She believed that one day, humanity would stand beside the coalition as equals. She believed that the debt from 30 years ago would one day be repaid. When Yoonji turned 30 years old, her father gave her a special gift. He gave her a small box made of wood. Inside the box was a drawing. The drawing showed stars and a big ship and two figures holding hands. One figure was taller, one was small. The drawing was old and worn and precious. It had been kept safe for 30 years. Park Min-joon had recovered it through secret channels and private connections. "This is the drawing you made," Park Min-joon said to his daughter. "When you were 5 years old, you gave this to Dr. He-jin. She kept it safe all these years. I finally got it back for you." Yoonji held the drawing and cried. She held it like it was made of gold. But while Park Min-joon and his daughter were building Earth's power, the Valorian coalition was falling apart. The coalition had once been very strong and very united. All the different alien species worked together. They shared resources. They helped each other in times of trouble. They believed in the same values and the same goals. But that unity was dying. Politics were pulling the coalition apart. Different species wanted different things. Some wanted more power. Some wanted more money. Some wanted to control more territory. Arguments became louder. Fights became more common. Species that had been friends for thousands of years now turned their backs on each other. The coalition government became weak. The military became divided. No one spoke with one voice anymore. Everyone spoke for themselves and their own species. The beautiful union that had been built across centuries was breaking into pieces. Meanwhile, a new force was rising in the galaxy. They called themselves the Sovereign Dominion. They were a group of warlike species that wanted to conquer everything. They did not believe in peace. They did not believe in cooperation. They believed only in power and strength and victory. The Dominion had mighty ships and powerful weapons. They had soldiers who were trained to fight and to kill. They had leaders who were ruthless and cold and willing to do anything to win. The Dominion began to attack coalition territories. They came without warning. They destroyed planets and killed millions. They enslaved entire species and forced them to work. They took resources and weapons. They spread fear and darkness. The coalition tried to fight back, but they were weak. Their ships were old. Their soldiers were tired. Their leaders could not agree on strategy. One by one, coalition territories fell. One by one, species were conquered. The great coalition that had existed for thousands of years was dying. Admiral Quan Teo was very old now. He had retired from the military many years ago. He lived alone in a quiet place far from the fighting and the politics. The retirement home was peaceful. There were gardens with strange alien plants. There were quiet rooms for thinking and reading. Quan Teo spent his days remembering the past. He thought about all the years he had served the coalition. He thought about all the battles he had fought. He thought about all the soldiers he had led. He thought about all the decisions he had made. Sometimes he thought about the humans he had rescued so long ago. He wondered if they were still alive. He wondered if they remembered him. He did not know that soon he would need them desperately. He did not know that the humans would remember. He did not know that far away on the planet Earth, a little girl who was now a grown woman was training an army and preparing for this moment. Dr. He-jin continued her research. She was older now, but her mind was still sharp. She still loved studying life and trying to understand the universe. She tried to teach different species to understand each other and work together. She tried to be a bridge between species that were fighting. She tried to bring peace where there was war. But every day the situation became worse. Every day more planets fell to the Dominion. Every day more lives were lost. Every day, hope seemed to fade a little more. Still, Dr. He-jin did not give up. She kept working. She kept trying. She kept the drawing that little Yoonji had made all those years ago in a special place in her home. She looked at it often and remembered the promise of friendship. She remembered that kindness could change the world. She remembered that small acts of mercy could echo through time. She held on to this belief even when everything around her was falling apart. She held on to it like a light in the darkness. On Earth, Commander Yoonji was training with the newest war fleet. She had 500 ships under her command. The fastest ships ever made. The strongest ships ever built. Each ship carried advanced weapons and smart computer systems. Each ship carried brave soldiers and skilled pilots. Yoonji trained them day and night. She taught them to fight together. She taught them to trust each other. She taught them tactics that had never been used before. She created strategies that were creative and bold. She prepared them for a war that might never come. She hoped it would never come. Every night, Yoonji took out the drawing her father had given her. She looked at the two figures holding hands. She looked at the stars. She made a silent promise to Dr. Hae-jin. She promised that one day she would repay the kindness. She promised that one day she would stand beside her friend and fight for her. She did not know that day was coming very soon. She did not know that events were already in motion that would change everything. The galaxy was moving toward a moment that no one could see. The coalition was dying. Humanity was rising. The Dominion was winning. But none of it was finished yet. The story was only in the middle. The most important part was still to come. Park Min-joon continued his work building human power. Admiral Kwon Tae-oh lived in his quiet home, not knowing what was about to happen. Dr. Hae-jin continued her research, holding the drawing close to her heart. Commander Yoonji trained her fleet, waiting for a call that had not yet come. But it was coming. It was coming fast. The threads of their lives, separated by 30 years and vast distances of space, were about to come back together. And when they did, the universe would never be the same. The attack came without any warning at all. It came like a storm that destroys everything in its path. The Sovereign Dominion sent a massive fleet to attack a coalition stronghold called Station Theta. Station Theta was one of the most important places in all of coalition space. It was a massive station that orbited a blue planet. Scientists worked there. Military officers worked there. Thousands of normal citizens lived there in the station. Families lived there. Children played in the gardens. Doctors helped people who were sick. Teachers taught young aliens about science and history. It was a place of life and hope and peace. And then, in just a few moments, it became a place of death and fire and darkness. The Dominion ships appeared suddenly on all the scanners. There were hundreds of them. They moved so fast that the coalition defense systems could not even react in time. The first weapons hit the station within seconds. Massive explosions shook the entire structure. Fire erupted from every section. Walls collapsed. Rooms filled with smoke. Alarms screamed everywhere. Thousands died instantly. They did not know what was happening. They did not have time to be scared. They just died. Dr. Hae-jin was in the research section of the station when the first blast hit. She was studying data about alien biology. She was sitting at her desk, reading on a computer screen. She was thinking about the promise that a little girl had made to her so many years ago. She was thinking about friendship and kindness and hope. And then the explosion came. The blast threw her across the room like she weighed nothing. Her body hit the metal wall hard. Her head struck the corner of a desk. She felt pain everywhere. Her arm was bleeding. Her chest felt crushed. For a moment she thought she would die. She thought this was the end. She thought she would never see another sunrise or another star. But Dr. Hae-jin was strong. Her body was strong, but her will was even stronger. She refused to die. She pulled herself up even though every part of her body screamed in pain. She looked around and saw that her entire section was collapsing. The ceiling was falling. The walls were cracking. The floor was breaking apart. She had to get out immediately or she would die. She ran toward the emergency exit. Behind her, the entire research section exploded into fire. The computer system sparked and burst. The equipment fell from the walls and crashed to the ground. Everything she had worked on, all her research, all her knowledge, was destroyed. But she did not think about that now. She thought only about survival. She thought only about the future. She ran and ran. Her feet carried her through smoke and flames. Her eyes burned from the heat, but she kept running. She found the emergency escape pod. She jumped inside. The door closed just as the entire corridor exploded. The escape pod shot out into space just before Station Theta was destroyed completely. Dr. Heijin floated in the escape pod, hurt and scared and alone. She looked back and saw the station exploding. 3 million people died that day. She had lost friends. She had lost colleagues. She had lost everything she had worked for. And she was one of the few survivors. Dr. Heijin floated in space for many hours. A coalition rescue ship finally found her and brought her to safety. She was taken to a hospital. Her wounds were healed. But her heart was broken. Her spirit was crushed. The coalition was dying. Station Theta was gone. Millions were dead. What was the point of living if everything was being destroyed? What was the point of hope if there was no hope left? These questions filled her mind as she lay in the hospital bed. But then something inside her changed. She thought about the drawing. She thought about the little girl who had made it. She thought about the promise of friendship. If that little girl was alive somewhere, if she was thinking about that day 30 years ago, then Dr. Heijin had to survive. She had to tell that story. She had to keep that memory alive. She had to believe that kindness and friendship could defeat the darkness. As soon as she could move, she did something very important. She sent a message. She sent it across the entire coalition network, asking for help and forgiveness. She sent it to every ship and every station. She sent it to every leader who was still alive. Her message was desperate and sad and hopeful all at the same time. By chance and by luck, her message reached Admiral Quan Teo. He was alone in his retirement home when it came. He was old and tired and had given up on everything. But when he heard her voice, something inside him woke up. It was the voice of Dr. Heijin, the scientist he had known so long ago, the scientist who had fought for the rescue of humans, the scientist who believed that all life had value, and now she was asking for help. Now the coalition was dying. Quan Teo understood what he had to do. He understood that this was his moment. He understood that one last brave act could save everything. He sent a message into Earth space. He sent it directly to the government of Earth. The message told about the crisis in coalition space. The message told about the dying coalition and the powerful Dominion. The message told about humans who had been rescued 30 years ago. The message asked the humans for help. The message said very simply, "You are alive because we saved you. We saved you because we believed that all life had value. We believed in kindness and mercy and the duty to help others. Now we need your help. Now we ask you to remember that day. Will you help us? Will you remember?" The message traveled through space at the speed of light. It crossed the galaxy. It entered Earth space. It reached military headquarters. Commander Unji was in an important meeting when the message arrived. A young officer brought her a piece of paper and handed it to her with shaking hands. "Commander," the officer said, "this just came in. It is marked as urgent." Unji read the message. She read the name of the sender. It was Admiral Quan Teo, the alien who had saved her 30 years ago, the alien whose face she barely remembered but whose kindness she had never forgotten. Unji fell to her knees. She cried. She read the message again and again. She could hear his voice in the words. She could feel his emotion. She could feel his hope and his desperation, and she knew what she had to do. Unji went to her father's office immediately. Park Min-jun was an old man now, but his mind was still sharp and clear. When he saw his daughter's face, he knew that something important had happened. Unji showed him the message. Park Min-jun read it slowly. He read it twice. Then he walked to the window and looked out at Earth cities below. "I have been waiting for this day my whole life," he said softly. "I have built Earth's military power for this day. I have trained our soldiers for this day. I have prepared you for this day." He turned to face his daughter. They saved our lives when they did not have to. They chose to believe in kindness. Now we must do the same. Now we must show that humans remember. Now we must show that we honor friendship. Unji hugged her father. She cried into his shoulder. "I will not let you down, father. I will save them. I will repay the debt." That night, the government of Earth met in emergency session. Unji presented her plan. She told them about the rescue from 30 years ago. She told them about the coalition and the Dominion. She told them about the choice they had to make. Were they going to remember kindness? Were they going to honor friendship? Were they going to repay the debt? Or were they going to turn their backs on those who had saved them? The room was silent. Every person understood the weight of the decision. Then one by one they voted. The vote was unanimous. Humans would help. Humans would go to war. Humans would answer the call. The decision was made. The die was cast. History was about to change. For 3 weeks, Earth mobilized every resource. The whole planet worked together. There was no stopping it. There was no delay. Factories worked day and night, building weapons and armor for the ships. Scientists worked without sleeping, improving the ship's engines and computer systems. Soldiers trained until their bodies were exhausted. Officers planned strategies and studied the enemy. Pilots practiced maneuvers that had never been performed before. The shipyards that had been quiet were now alive with activity. Sparks flew everywhere. Metal rang with the sound of construction. Ships that had never been tested were now being prepared for battle. The human war fleet was the most advanced military force in the galaxy. No one outside of Earth's government knew what was happening. The secret was kept perfectly. No human politician told anyone. No human soldier leaked information. No human scientist spread the news. The whole world kept the secret together. They knew that this mission was the most important thing that had ever happened to humanity. They knew that this was the moment when humans would prove what they could do. The final day came. 500 ships lined up in Earth's orbital shipyard. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Each ship was sleek and fast and deadly. The outside of each ship reflected light in strange ways. The armor was made of new materials that were stronger than anything the Dominion had ever seen. Weapons were mounted on every section. Sensors could detect enemies from across the entire galaxy. Computers could calculate strategies faster than any living mind could think. The ships were ready. The soldiers were ready. The pilots were ready. Everything was ready. Commander Unji stood on the deck of the lead ship. The ship was called Hope. It was the biggest and strongest ship in the entire fleet. It was black and silver with lights that glowed like stars. Unji wore her military uniform with pride. The uniform was made of special material that protected against energy weapons and explosions. On her uniform were medals from 30 years of service. On her uniform were badges that showed her rank and her achievements. Behind her stood Colonel Baek Sung-ho. He was the head of Earth's ground forces. He was enormous and strong and brave. He had fought in every war that Earth had ever fought. He had never lost a battle. He had never given up. He stood beside Commander Unji like a mountain. Next to them was Captain Nari. She was the best pilot that Earth had ever produced. She could fly any ship. She could perform any maneuver. Her reaction time was faster than any other human. Her courage was legendary. "All ships prepare for departure," Commander Unji said into the communication system. Her voice was calm and confident. "We are about to leave Earth and head into space. We are about to fight for our friends. We are about to show the galaxy what humanity can do. We will not fail. We will not retreat. We will win this war." The soldiers cheered. The pilots cheered. The officers cheered. 500 ships began to move. They rose up from Earth's surface and into space. They moved in perfect formation. They moved like one living organism. They were not just 500 separate ships. They were one massive force moving toward a single goal. The ships jumped into hyperspace. They traveled faster than light. They crossed the galaxy in a matter of hours. Behind them, Earth fell away into darkness. Ahead of them, the Coalition's dying space waited to be saved. When the human fleet arrived in Coalition space, Admiral Kwan Teo could not believe what he was seeing. His monitor showed 500 ships. Each one was powerful and advanced. Each one was magnificent. He watched as they arranged themselves in a battle formation. He watched as they sent their identification signals. At first, he did not understand. Then the realization hit him like a physical blow. These were the humans he had rescued 30 years ago. They had come. They had really come. They were here to fight. He put out a message on all Coalition frequencies. "Attention all Coalition forces. The humans have arrived. Humanity has answered our call. Prepare to fight beside them. Victory is possible." And then Unji sent a message directly to him. Her voice came through the communication system strong and clear. "Admiral Kwan Teo, this is Commander Unji of Earth. I am the daughter you helped rescue from the Kepler expanse 30 years ago. I am here to repay the debt. I am here to save your people. I am here to fight beside you until victory is achieved." Kwan Teo listened to her voice. He heard the strength. He heard the determination. He heard the honor. He understood that he had been right all those years ago. These humans were not primitive. They were noble. They were brave. They were worthy of saving. Dr. He Jin was in a coalition hospital when she heard the news. The human fleet had arrived. 500 ships. Advanced weapons. Elite soldiers. She heard the name of the commander. Yoonji. The little girl had grown up and become a military leader. The little girl had remembered. The little girl had kept the promise. Dr. He Jin cried tears of joy and relief. She knew that she had been right all along. She knew that kindness was not weakness. She knew that mercy was not foolishness. She knew that the small rescue all those years ago had made a difference. She had done something good, and that good had come back to save the galaxy. The first battle happened near the Theta sector. This was where the Dominion had one of their biggest fleet bases. The Dominion had hundreds of ships there. They thought they were safe. They thought no one could challenge them. Then suddenly the human fleet appeared. The Dominion ships tried to flee, but they were too slow. The human ships were faster and more advanced. Captain Nari led the attack. She flew her fighter ship directly into the enemy formation. The Dominion ships tried to stop her, but she was too skilled. She moved like water flowing around rocks. She moved like wind that could not be caught. She fired her weapons and destroyed one enemy ship after another. Behind her, the other human pilots followed. They had trained together. They fought together. They moved like a single organism. The battle lasted only 2 hours. The Dominion lost 300 ships. The humans lost none. It was a complete victory. It was a statement. It was a demonstration of human power and human skill. After that battle, everything changed. The Dominion realized that they could be defeated. They realized that they were not invincible. They realized that the humans were the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced. Over the next several months, the humans and the coalition worked together. They fought battle after battle. Each battle was a human victory. The Dominion lost more and more territory. The Dominion ships were destroyed faster than they could rebuild them. The Dominion soldiers grew tired and desperate. Colonel Baek Sung-ho led ground forces to take back planets that the Dominion had conquered. The soldiers were brave and strong and quick. They liberated millions of alien beings from slavery. They restored hope where there had been only darkness. The Dominion began to fall apart. Their leaders argued with each other. Their soldiers deserted and fled. Their resources disappeared. Slowly but surely, they were losing the war. The galaxy was being saved, and the humans were the heroes of that salvation. After months of fighting, the final battle came. It was the greatest battle the galaxy had ever seen. The human fleet and the coalition fleet faced the last Dominion armada. The Dominion threw everything they had into this final battle. They wanted to win or die trying. But they were facing an enemy that could not be defeated. The humans and the coalition were too strong. Their ships were too advanced. Their soldiers were too brave. Their commanders were too smart. When the smoke cleared and the explosions stopped, the Dominion armada was completely destroyed. The enemy leaders were captured. The enemy threat was eliminated. The war was over. The coalition was saved, and humanity had proven that they were not just capable. Humanity had proven that they were the greatest warriors in the entire galaxy. The celebration began as soon as the war ended. The entire galaxy seemed to celebrate together. Species that had been hidden in fear came out into the light. Species that had been slaves were set free. Planets that had been destroyed were being rebuilt. Hope had returned to every world and every station. But the greatest celebration happened on a neutral planet called Unity Prime. This was a place where all species could meet safely. All the leaders and all the important people came there. They came to talk about peace. They came to talk about the future. They came to honor those who had fought and died. Most of all, they came to honor humanity. The celebration lasted for 3 days. There were great feasts with food from 1,000 different worlds. There were ceremonies where leaders showed respect to each other. There were parties where soldiers from different species danced together and told stories about the battles they had fought together. There were statues being built to honor the humans who had given their lives in battle. There were songs being written to celebrate human bravery and human loyalty. Admiral Kwan Teo stood in the Great Hall of Unity Prime. He wore his dress uniform, which was covered with medals and ribbons from his long life of service. His body was old and worn by years of fighting, but his spirit was alive and strong. He had seen the fall of the coalition. He had thought it was the end. He had thought darkness would win, but it had not. Humans had come and saved everything. Humans had shown that honor and loyalty were more powerful than weapons. Humans had shown that friendship could change the world. He looked around the great hall and he smiled. A real smile. He had not smiled like that in many, many years. He smiled because he finally understood. He finally understood that he had been wrong all those years ago when he had doubted the humans. He finally understood that Dr. Heijin had been right. He finally understood that all life had value, and that mercy was the greatest strength of all. Commander Yunji walked into the great hall with her father, Park Min-jun. They walked slowly because Park Min-jun was very old now. His hair was white. His body was bent by age. But his eyes were bright and full of joy. They approached Admiral Kwan Teo. Yunji saluted him with great respect. "Admiral Kwan Teo, I am Commander Yunji of Earth. You saved my life when I was a small child. You rescued me from darkness and death. I am here today to tell you that I have not forgotten. I have never forgotten. Everything I have done, every battle I have fought, every leader I have become, all of it was because of that rescue. Because of that kindness. Because of your choice to believe that life had value." Kwan Tayo stepped forward and saluted back. "Commander Yunji, I am the one who must apologize. I did not want to rescue you. I thought humans were not worth saving. But your people have proven me wrong. You have proven that humans are noble and brave and worthy of respect. More than that, you have shown me that mercy and friendship are the greatest forces in the universe. It is I who should thank you." The Admiral and the Commander embraced. Both were crying. Both were remembering that day so long ago in the Kepler expanse. Park Min-jun stepped forward and took Kwan Tao's hand. "Admiral, you gave my daughter a chance to live. You gave my people a chance to survive and grow strong. Because of what you did, all of humanity is alive today. All of humanity will forever be grateful." Kwan Tayo nodded slowly. "Your daughter gave the galaxy a chance to survive. She gave millions of lives a chance to be free. When you come to my world, every human in the coalition will know your name. Every alien species will know your name. You will be remembered forever as the species that saved us all." He called for all the coalition leaders to come forward. When they were gathered, Kwan Tayo made an official announcement. "By authority of the Valorian Coalition and all its member species, I announce that Earth is now a full member of the Coalition. Earth has full rights and full power in all Coalition decisions. Humans are equal to all other species. Humans are our equals, our partners, and our friends. This is the law from this day forward forever and always." The Great Hall erupted in cheers. Species from every world applauded. Humans from Earth started to cry. They were finally recognized. They were finally part of the larger galactic community. Later that day, Dr. Heijin arrived at the celebration. She had been recovering from her injuries at a hospital. Now she was strong enough to attend. When she walked into the room and saw Commander Yunji, everything else seemed to disappear. The entire universe seemed to focus on just those two people. Yunji was now a grown woman. She was a military leader. She was powerful and confident. But she was also the little girl who had given Dr. Heijin a drawing so many years ago. Yunji saw Dr. Heijin and she immediately walked toward her. They met in the middle of the great hall. Yunji took Dr. Heijin's hands. "I remember you," Yunji said. "I remember your kindness. I remember your voice. I remember feeling safe when you were near me." Dr. Heijin could not speak. Tears were flowing down her face. She pulled Yunji into a tight embrace. They held each other and cried. 30 years fell away. All the time and all the distance disappeared. They were simply two friends who had been separated and who were now reunited. Park Min-jun came over and gave Dr. Heijin a special box. When she opened it, she gasped. Inside was the drawing. The drawing that little Yunji had made all those years ago in the coalition ship. The drawing of the stars and the two friends holding hands. "We have kept this safe," Park Min-jun said. "My daughter looked at it every day of her life. It reminded her of you. It reminded her of the promise you made to her." Dr. Heijin held the drawing like it was made of gold and diamonds. "I have kept my copy safe too," she said. "I looked at it every day. Every day I hoped that you were happy and that you were safe. Every day I believed that one day we would meet again." The next weeks were filled with celebration and happiness. Young humans and young coalition members trained together. They became friends. They learned from each other. They sang songs together. They told stories about the war and about their families and about their dreams for the future. Soldiers who had fought side by side shared meals. They shared memories of the battles. They shared their pain and their joy. Scientists from different species shared their research and their knowledge. They worked together to solve problems and to discover new things. Artists created beautiful paintings and sculptures celebrating the victory and the alliance between species. Musicians composed songs that combined human music and alien music in ways that had never been done before. All across the galaxy, the message was the same. Humans and aliens were working together. Humans and aliens were friends. Humans and aliens were partners. A new era was beginning. An era of peace and cooperation and mutual respect. 1 year later, new dangers began to appear on the edges of coalition space. There were new enemies rising. There were new threats forming. The darkness was not completely gone. But this time it was different. This time, humans and coalition members stood together to face it. Their combined fleet was the strongest force in the entire galaxy. Nothing could challenge them. They were united. They were powerful. They were unstoppable. The humans had become the protectors of all species. They had become the guardians of peace. They had become the heroes of the stars. The story of their rescue and their rise to power would be told for millions of years to come. Children from every species would hear the story. They would hear about the humans who were saved and who became heroes. They would hear about the mercy that created friendship. They would hear about the loyalty that saved the galaxy. And they would understand the most important lesson of all, that the greatest human strength was not weapons or power or intelligence. The greatest human strength was the capacity to remember kindness. The greatest human strength was the ability to honor friendship. The greatest human strength was the willingness to repay debts across time and across the stars. This was what made humans special. This was what made humans heroes. This was what made humanity the most honored species in the entire galaxy. Admiral Quanteo often sat alone and thought about that day in the Kepler expanse. He thought about how he had not wanted to rescue the humans. He thought about how he was wrong. He thought about how Dr. Hagen had been right all along. She had believed in the value of all life. She had believed that kindness was important. She had believed that small acts of mercy could echo through time and change the entire future of the world. And she had been completely right. Because of her decision to fight for that rescue, the entire future of the galaxy had changed. Because of one small rescue, billions of lives were saved. Because of one small act of kindness, the darkness was defeated and the light won. Quanteo understood now that mercy was not weakness. Mercy was the greatest strength. He had learned this lesson too late to save the coalition from nearly falling apart, but not too late to save it completely. He had learned that loyalty and friendship were more powerful than any weapon ever made. He had learned that hope could overcome despair if you believed strongly enough. And so the story of humanity's greatest achievement was not told as a story of conquest or power or dominance. It was told as a story of a species that remembered kindness,